So, Poor Things. This is a highly anticipated film, not only in, I think, the film going community, but also amongst us as well. This is the latest feature film from director Yorgos Lanthimos, who is coming off of the wildly successful 2018 film The Favorite, which was a critical darling. It won a ton of awards, including the Best Actress Oscar for its lead actress, Olivia Colman. This also marks the second collaboration between Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos. She was also featured in that main cast of The Favorite all the way back in 2018. And so they're coming back to work together again and potentially establishing maybe a new director actor relationship that hopefully I think we can see for the near future. But Yorgos
Mhm.
Lanthimos, he's a pretty celebrated director, more so of an indie film director, but he's done a ton of psychological thrillers, black comedies, horror movies, almost you can call them. Some very bizarre stories he tends to tackle in his subject matter. And when we first saw the trailer for Poor Things months and months ago, I know it shot up to
Mhm.
our most anticipated lists of the year, and it also had its premiere earlier this fall at the Venice Film Festival. Again, coming out to pretty great critical reaction. And again, we got a chance to go check this out this past weekend as it premiered here in New York City, and it's also having its wide release over the next few days as well. So, with all of that out the way, man, let's just start with your overall thoughts. What did you think about Poor Things?
Is Porgos Lanthimos becoming one of my favorite directors? It's so crazy to think about because of the previous movies, that he's done have all been so crazy and so bonkers. But by the end of them, I'm like, dang, I think I like that. And I feel like that at the end of every one of his films. And Poor Things is absolutely no exception to that. And in fact, it feels like he's even dialed up a lot of the things that you may love about some of his previous movies almost tenfold here in a lot of different ways. It's like this is very clear he had a vision here. It's very clear he knew what he had to do. And I really like the idea that him and Emma Stone might be starting a new relationship between director and actor here because I think they might have something here. And so, man, Poor Things. I don't even know how to describe this movie, to be honest. It really is so many things in this film that you can talk about and explain. But Emma Stone, very simply, again, play as simply as I can say it, plays an experiment. She is an experiment. I'm not trying to spoil anything in case, because I kind of went into Poor Things not knowing too much, and I think that made me even more excited to watch it. I was like, I'm staying. I've seen the trailer once. I barely remember it, and we go in and just kind of not know too much, and so I'm gonna leave it there. But this film says so much, and it's one of those things where this is a piece of work that it's not only to Yorgos as a director has never been the guy who's just putting out movies to make him crazy for any reason, right? He's always coming with a message and for something to say. And I think Poor Things and what it has to say about really the state of, to be honest, the plight of women, patriarchy, even the complexities of what it means to explore the world, what it means to find pleasure in things and liberation in things, what it means to all of it. It's a ridiculous movie. Don't get me wrong. This movie is crazy, but to be able to, I think, weave those elements together of bonkers and having a message is something Yorgos is just really good at doing nowadays, and something I've come to appreciate to him from him as a filmmaker. And Poor Things, it's not only firing to me on all cylinders by ways of acting. I think Emma Stone is, man, I think she is leaving nothing. She is leaving nothing out by playing this character. I think that there's a I don't know, there's just a really cool, I think way forward in this film that we feel like something that we can both attach to and still stay disattached to. And so I really appreciate, again, those elements of the film. This production design of this movie is amazing. This is really about Emma Stone's character being able to venture out into the world and learn different things, but from her perspective. And her perspective is so new, and so she doesn't really know what the world is like. And we can see that in all of the colors and the production design and the way that they move throughout the world. It's just really cool and amazing to watch, man. It's very, very, very beautiful movie to me. As I was watching it, I did not I knew I would like the art style, but again, Porgos has never really dove, I think, all the way into like this kind of superficial looking dream world that we see here, and we get that in Poor Things, and I think it's very, 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 very well done, man. And so it's not just Emma Stone. It's Willem Dafoe plays like the doctor to Frankenstein, which I really like. I think he's killing it, but I think Mark Ruffalo was like the surprise to me. I did not expect to laugh as much in this movie as I did. Granted, Yorgos has always been kind of like a comedic, dark comedy director, but this was like I am constantly laughing almost every frame. And again, a lot of that was Mark Ruffalo, a lot of that was Emma Stone. And a lot of it was low key Rami Youssef too. Shout out to Rami too for being in this movie. There was a lot of good comedy in this film, man. But this movie is haunting. This movie is sad. This movie is also fun to watch, and I think the performance from Emma Stone for sure is going to shine. But it's to no surprise that this movie is being talked about as a lot of contenders for early contender for a lot of different award shows. Man, it's really, I think, that good. And it's also that crazy. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody. This movie, who knows? I kind of want to vet people right. I kind of want to be like, oh, watch the first 10 minutes of this movie. What did you think? Okay, now keep watching it, kind of type thing to see how people feel. But I love the concept. I love the distinctive style that Yorgos has. I love the world building they do here. I love the comedy. I love how ridiculous it is. I think I just really love this movie. Poor Things, man. It's really some fine filmmaking.
So I was extremely hyped about this film. I was very much looking forward to it. One of my most anticipated of the year once I found out that it was actually happening and coming out at the end of the year. And I'll start with Yorgos as a director. Again, a extremely talented visual artist who is kind of unprecedented in terms of combining all of these different genre defining elements into a movie. He's just so exceptional at that. He can create these
Mhm.
really whimsical worlds, and then underneath all of that with the story, they can be haunting and dark. They can be extremely comedic and funny. They can be super relatable, even though he's injecting a lot of either real world political issues or maybe even some sci-fi elements in them as well. And then you combine that with just the pure raw talent of Emma Stone, who is one of the best actresses in the world and also one of the most recognizable actresses in the world. She is kind of at the height of her powers at this moment. We're definitely living in an Emma
Mhm.
Stone moment. I know I am personally. I'm also watching her in The
Yeah.
Curse as well. That's a fantastic show. And then to come back with this performance in this film, it's equally as impressive just to know that this woman is picking very challenging roles that always takes her to much different places that we don't typically see her in. And coming into Poor Things again, just knowing that these two were going to team back up, I had nothing but the highest of expectations, and the film delivered for me. It absolutely knocked me out of the park in terms of just what I thought it could be, and surpassed all of those expectations. I love the genre bending that happens here. This is very much a Frankensteinish sci-fi sex comedy that has
Mhm.
so many different messages and so many different undertones and things that it's tackling, but it never does so in a way that hammers it over the head. It's just something that you just allow to wash over you. And I just, firstly, I love the performance of what Emma Stone does here. She has to play this really, really complicated character who is very much not developed as a person. And the journey that she goes on throughout the story, it's a lot about self-discovery. It's a lot about liberation and freedom and wanting to see the world and everything that it has to offer. And as she goes on that journey, you just find out that she has all of these quips and all of these quirks about her that make her so affable and so lovable, but also somebody
Mhm.
that you don't want to mess with at the same time, because she doesn't really have the best, I guess, judgment in terms of the things to say to people, because she is so underdeveloped and she has to go through that process, that she's going to give it to you as bluntly as you can receive it. And there's so many funny moments in the movie where she just says something in such a deadpan way, and it works because in the way that she's coming from it with, and then all of the people that she interacts across this story, these are all males, that come in and out of her life, and they all to varying degrees are either really good people to her or just quite possibly the worst people ever to her. And you just get to see that all unfold and how she interacts with them. And she's doing so much with her range in those relationships as well. The way that she acts with Willem Dafoe's character, Godwin, totally different than how she comes
Mhm.
across with Mark Ruffalo. And I think that she's just doing so much here. She talked about in interviews, which is great. We can actually research and listen to cast interviews again because the strike is over. But she talked about in interviews how they had to develop a scale. They had to develop a scale from 1 to 5 in terms of her level of development. You know, one
Mhm.
being the lowest and 5 being the highest. And depending on which lever to pull, that's how she was going to act in the scene. And you can just tell she's always thinking, she's always going through something in her head, and you don't always know what that is. But then it just comes out in the scene. And oftentimes it's either extremely shocking or super funny as well. And outside of that, other performances, Mark Ruffalo, fantastic here. So great to see him
Mhm.
actually acting again. You know, I love Marvel. I love the Avengers movies and all of that stuff, but Mark Ruffalo is just such a talented actor who's done so many things, from his performances in Collateral or
Mhm.
Spotlight or just all of
Yeah.
these other movies that
Zodiac.
he's been in.
Mhm.
And for him to not be able to really flex those muscles, I think just due to the limitations of what the MCU offers, that's been a hindrance to his career. And he even talked about the fact that he was kind of apprehensive about taking this role because it plays against type for him. He has to go in and play somebody completely detestable and unlikable. And Mark Ruffalo feels like the most likable guy in the world. Go watch his Hot Ones
Mhm.
episode. It's hilarious. But you come in here and you see him just transform and become an entirely different person, and it works. And he's funny, and he's somebody that's easy to hate, and somebody that you just want to throw whatever you have in your hand at him at the time, because he's just such a bad person in this movie. But it's great. It's great for the story. And again, it's great for the interactions that Emma Stone's character, Bella Baxter, goes through. But, you know, really beyond all of that, I think that this is one of the best films of the year. It's so inventive. It's so rich in every single scene. The set design, the costumes, the colors, and the cinematography, the visual
Beautiful.
effects that they utilize, the title cards and transitions, all of that stuff is just absolutely gorgeous. Every single image and every single frame has so much detail woven throughout it. And I just love the celebration. Also, really the big message of this movie, or at least one of the big messages, is just that sexual activity that happens all throughout the course of the movie. I will say, for people who haven't seen this film, a lot of sex in it. Whole lot of sex
Oh,
in it.
it's hella rated R.
And it's great. It's
It's
absolutely
RR.
great. We need more films with more sex. I don't know what happened over the past 20 years. I think a lot of these pre-branded IP franchise films, they're so focused on that we just completely negate physical intimate relationships altogether. You barely see people
Mhm.
kiss in movies anymore. And I just love that this movie goes completely overboard with it. And there were reports that came out that some couples have walked out of the movie because of the sex and the graphic nature of it. And I'm just like, are we working backwards as a society? Like, what's happening here? When do we become so fucking prudish to where
Yeah.
sex is it's becoming too much? And again, I think that just due to where the trends of filmmaking have gone over the past 20 years with the films that most people consume, there's just a lack of sex in them across the board, which is weird because erotic
Mhm.
thrillers as a genre is dead. And the fact that there's so much eroticism in this movie that's also infused with the comedy and the drama and the self-discovery and the liberating aspects of it, it makes it just so inventive and so different compared to everything else that we're seeing. And I think that there's a certain electricity to this movie that you can't really get elsewhere. And I think that Yorgos
Mhm.
and Emma, as tag team partners bringing this project to life, because she's also a producer, they just make it something that is so original and so different and so enjoyable. And certainly, it's coming into, being one of my favorite films of the year. Absolutely. I do want to ask you, because this is getting so much conversation around it. We're going to talk about the Golden Globe nominations a little bit later, which might sort of be an indicator at where award seasons goes. But let's leapfrog past the Golden Globes and let's think about the
Mhm.
Oscars, the main event, the big show. What
Mhm.
what do you think, might be at play for this movie? What types of awards do you think that this can be in consideration for, from a performance standpoint, or even a technical standpoint?
To be honest, bro, you name it, and it's probably needs to be there, man. Again, specifically Emma Stone. I mean, I to be honest, it's gonna have to take me some convincing and some looking through other nominees and nominations to be like, man, this girl just win Best Actress for this film. Again, I think that's a shoe in. Definitely, I think director, screenplay, um, production design has to. I mean, like production design, costume, and makeup. Those three in particular, man, they're gonna have some tough competition. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're still the Barbie to all of this, right? And I think these two films are actually in conversation with each other between Poor Things and Barbie. But I think I definitely think Poor Things is wherever Barbie is. I think Poor Things is going to be right there behind it, knocking on the door. So I'm definitely betting on director, film, actress, production design, makeup, and I'm missing one: production design, makeup.
Supporting
and
actor, Mark Ruffalo, of course.
supporting actor Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo. Those are the ones that I think they're gonna make it. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to be in a ton of categories. It'll be in, I think, all the major ones that you expect. So I'm expecting at least 8 to 9 nominations, if not potentially more. The Favorite got 10 nominations when it came out, and
It
again,
might tie it.
Yorgos
Mhm.
as a director is just so visual in his style, and I think all those technical below the line things will of course be there, and then the acting performances, Emma, definitely Mark Ruffalo, maybe even Willem Dafoe as well. I would not be
Maybe
surprised if he squeaked in there as well, and also got a Best Supporting Actor nomination. But yeah, I would love to do a Poor Things Barbie double feature. That sounds like a fantastic movie. Better yet, let's do a Poor Things Barbie crossover. Can we get Emma Stone,
that sounds
Margot
crazy.
Robbie on the phone? Like, let's do something, bring these two just whimsical
Imagine
characters to life. I would love to see it.
that is crazy. Imagine like the whole you really flip the whole cast. Like imagine
Oh my
Issa Rae
God.
and Poor Things. How does that look?
Character swap. Oh, or even Ryan Gosling, coming over being one of the terrible men. He was
Mm,
already a terrible man in Barbie, so
that would be
maybe
kind of tight.
yeah,
I'm
maybe
down for that.
maybe he becomes a good guy in Poor Things because he was already kind of like he's kind of bad in Barbie. He was
He's
kind of
like
like
he's
a
the
bad guy.
Rami. He's the Rami of it all. In Poor
Yeah,
Things.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
for
Ryan
sure.
Gosling.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that would be good for him. So we will certainly have to see what Poor Things does when award season rolls around. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the brand new film starring Emma Stone, Poor Things. If you've checked this out, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.